Hi Internet, Org speaking. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be playing a little bit more Rebalanced. We're going to be playing the Daytripper, if I was a junior. And I was about to say something else, but I'm pretty sure that's all I need to say. Why do I keep getting Maple Treeway? Maple Treeway is one of the hardest court tracks, and I hate the fact that I keep getting it first try. Now, the Daytripper was actually kind of an accident. It has kind of flown into the meta, being one of the few vehicles that we've developed, which we've tried to make a basically a kart version of the Shooting Star. So if any of you guys remember the Shooting Star video, the main classification was that it's a speed character or a speed vehicle, but it's not based off of, pure raw speed. It's based off of the fact it has a really strong mini turbo. Also, don't mind the red shells being rotating in front of me. That is normal. There was an offset added to the Daytripper, which allows me to ram people, because since it's a mini turbo based car, you kind of spool and like reel people in, which makes it so that having a hitbox in the front of the car, it looks a little bit weird. I wish there was a better way to do this, but unfortunately we're limited by MKW code. But it allows you to kind of like sneak in from behind and like pull people down, and eventually when you get around to like drifting around corners, the items actually turn to the side. So if anyone's on the inside lane of you, you actually tend to bump them. So this is a mini turbo based vehicle. It is a mini turbo based kart, which actually turned out to be even more broken than the Shooting Star. So I need a cough. Sorry about that. I have a weak esophagus. Genetic thing. It's okay. Hold on. Maybe I should pause for a little bit longer. I almost fell off there. So the mini turbo base on this vehicle is because it's a kart and because it shares the same classification as the Shooting Star. The main speed comes from. Look. Oh, I actually got hit by that. Rip. I thought I avoided that. My timing's a little bit off. The blooper is actually really strong. So, what was I saying? Let's talk about the mini turbo. Let's talk about the development of the Daytripper for a bit, because it really does not have a long and extensive development list. It's just a lot of things kind of came together for it to be just a really good vehicle, and people began to realize that because it has all the components that makes a really good vehicle. Oh yeah, so I was thinking that we're probably going to do one more. I know that version 5.0 was supposed to be the last one, but there's a good chance that there's going to be a quick hotfix, which actually nerfs the Daytripper, because as of right now, the Daytripper, except for this corner right here, is actually kind of meta. Despite the fact that I'm driving like garbage, the Daytripper online, for people who know how to use it, in the know, it is I think the only S++ vehicle in the game, which is kind of weird. I was trying to balance the game, and it just turns out that I just instead made a kart meta, which, is fun. But we're going to need to get around and tuning that to change that. So it just needs like a minor speed nerf and a minor speed thing. Minor changes. And also, there's also a few courses that have incorrect KCL and checkpoint things, which need to be fixed as well. I'll take second for falling off twice. If you fall off twice in Rebalance, that's normally a death sentence. I'll take second. Land is one of the few tracks, I think it's the only track that has off-road type 2. So you go incredibly slow on Land. Like, unnaturally slow. Which means that vehicles like the Daytripper, who have like an off-road, not off-road, oh my gosh, who have a mini turbo buff, they kind of just like cruise past people because the mini turbo overrides, and it doesn't have as much of a downside compared to, the speed value, the mini turbo value. You don't lose as much because it's off-road. Let me see. So as you can see on the inside, when the nanos are trailing in, if someone tries to get inside of me or take a tighter line and touches me, they're going to be actually spun out, which, trust me, I've learned from personal experience, it's not a fun thing to do. Especially since the Daytripper actually does have quite a good toning radius. It was just very difficult, because A, it was a kart and we didn't have much playtesting data on a kart, and B, it's a mini turbo based vehicle, which are always really hard to tune. Like, there was a time when the Shooting Star was busted, and there was a time when the Shooting Star was probably the worst vehicle in the game. It's just that this vehicle archetype from mini turbo based stuff is very, very difficult. Very, very difficult to like wrap your head around. So it makes sense that we're going to have a few dud vehicles off the top, which in this case was actually turned out to be really, really good, which need to be changed. So that's something that I'm planning to do. We're probably going to do a hotfix where... Yikes. We're going to do a hotfix where we nerf the Daytripper, we nerf probably the Wild Wing as well. The Wild Wing is also a little bit too meta, a little bit too dominant. And we are also going to quickly change something on Warriors Goldmine, because there's actually a spot where you could fall off and you get the incorrect respawn, which means you have to drive the lap all the way around, which is not good. That could be a pretty nasty surprise for some of you guys. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about how the Daytripper plays, because I'm not the most classified karter, as you could very clearly tell. I'm, especially with kart lines, and especially going at the speed that I am. Because you gotta remember, Rebalanced is tuned up to be way faster than normal Mario Kart Wii. Because A, I think faster equals more fun, as long as you aren't breaking the limits of the game. Like, if we made everything like 300% faster, that would obviously not be fun. It needs to be in the realm of what the game is capable of handling. As you can see, I just broke away. Assuming that there's no good off-road vehicle, this vehicle is going to break away. Here's a good example of a course that is not necessarily great for the Daytripper. I mean, you could snake, and good players will be snaking. I just frankly don't know how to snake with this thing, because it feels kind of wide to snake with. Who knows, maybe actual Daytripper could let me know. Like, we have a few like resident sleepers who actually main carts, those being like people like Ross, people like Police, people like, let's say Cog as well. Cog is also pretty decent at certain carts. So they're kind of like the residents, I guess, experts, if you will. Like, as you can see right there, the green shell actually did not clobber me because I had the banana sticking off to the side, because the position of the items is in front of me, which is really nice. It's a very, very obscure thing. It looks weird, and like I said, I wish that there was a better way to make it look, because it looks weird, and it definitely looks a little out of place, and I'll be the first to admit that. But it's also very functional, which is why we decided to keep it in. It actually enhances the way that this vehicle is played. So you can't protect yourself behind you, but frankly, when you have, you know, that much offense, you don't really need it. Right. So, yeah. Like, I'm sure that there's a snake line here. I used to remember snake lines way back when I first started playing. Yeah, those snake lines are kind of gone. They're distant memory, because it matters a lot which, especially when you're going onto a straight, it matters which direction you start the drift. Let me see if I can get this timing down. Yeah. You gotta make sure that when the blooper shows up, you get the timing right, because if you use the shrooms too late, you actually won't make the blooper disappear. Just something to keep in mind. There's like a timeout period, if you will. So that's why if you ever have like a case where you're spamming a golden and it just is not disappearing, that's why. You gotta make sure you use it in the right time frame. Or this also has like off-road type 1, I believe. So it's a little bit of a off-road nerf, which shouldn't be too big of a deal. All that basically does for a DDR is it just makes it a little bit slower, so it feels a little bit more like, you know, normal Mario Kart Wii. I will admit though, hello, can't avoid that. If I was closer to the wall, I may have been able to do something about it, but I'm not, so just keep in mind. Ooh, a lot of red shells here. It's like I'm playing online all over again. Come on. That's something I haven't been having an issue with, because I'm so used to, I think my muscle memory kicks in whenever I am at a standstill. So my instinct to start the drift is at a lower speed. So I think I explained this in an earlier video, but basically, every vehicle has a speed, and then you would have to calculate in your head a 55% cut of that speed. I'm not sure if it's exactly 55. I go by 55 just to be safe. So for instance, if your car goes 100 AKMH, the time when it's the speed that you have to be in order to start a drift is 55 AKMH. And now I actually have to kind of play like Double Dash. I have to build out items backward. Oh, that's fun. And one thing about the blue shell that never mind, the shot kind of nullified it. But as you saw with the blue shell, once I got hit, I actually still had an item in my inventory, which is something that was highly requested by actually Troy, TWD98. He was the one who kind of gave me the idea. It's like, oh, it would be nice if the blue shell, A, was a little bit nerfed, because, you know, it's a blue shell, and B, it also allowed you to, you know, keep the item inside of your item roulette, which I thought was a fantastic idea. So that way you could kind of protect yourself, and there's a lot of strategy that goes around. Whenever you're adding strategy or whenever you're adding options to a game, I generally consider it a good idea, as long as the options are not, you know, meta defining. They're just options, things that you could do. I screwed that up. Alright. As you can see, the Daytripper, like, on some of my earlier videos, I was slamming into the wall, and if you ever watch my Twitch streams when we play DDR, I'm normally screwing up the wall ride. The wall ride is one of the harder things for me to wrap my head around with. At least in a kart. In a bike, it's pretty easy, but in a kart, no, it's not. Which, by the way, you should check out. I stream over on my Twitch page, and I just play worldwide. So if you want to see more of the online aspect of that, be sure to check out the Twitch page. We're getting really, really unlucky with these track picks, actually. The Daytripper really shines on what we call reset tracks. So those are tracks like Peach Gardens, those are tracks like Mario Circuit 3, or even some skill tracks as well. Inside of the old Mario Kart Wii meta, for those of you guys who are unaware, different tracks are actually classified with different categories, and they do different things inside of a award. So for instance, Luigi Circuit is what's called a luck track. It is a track that you could do whatever you want, and as long as you don't, drive backward, right, you have just as much of a chance of winning as everyone else. So there's very little strategy involved in a track like Luigi Circuit, which is why competitive players tend to steer clear of it, because it's not very fun. Now, I will admit, Luigi Circuit is not the most luck track. English. It's not the most luck-based track in the game. It is very luck-based, I will admit that. But it at least has like a semblance of strategy, because the track layout, despite how simplistic it is, it does have, hot spots and cold spots. There are parts where you could overtake, and there's parts where, like right here, you could overtake that spot right here. So you would take double sand, and then you would take one shroom across the cut, like that. Which tends to net you a decent amount. Frick, that sucks. I don't think the honeycomb... Oh, it has decent excel. Okay. Yeah, I hate that track. Because I started this train of thought, I'm actually just going to continue talking. So there's luck tracks like this. There are reset tracks, which benefit people who actually start in the back because of the way the cycles work. And then at the other end of the extreme, there are the skill tracks. The tracks that you want to start in the front at, you want to be able to drive, you need to have the skill to keep up. And there's like those 3 different categories. And some people break it into 5. Some people call them luck tracks, and then there's item tracks, which are like Grumble, Volcano, and I actually agree with that. There should be an item track. And then some people call it an elimination track. Races like Rainbow Road, where if you make one mistake, you're just dead. And we've gotten very unlucky in the fact that we got like 3, 4 luck tracks. Crazy. This one I'm going to try to do like a batch recording, so I'm going to try to record a few more in the same session. So hopefully I'll be able to get something out right after this. Should be nice. Be sure to grab your copy of Mario Kart Rebalanced version 5 today. Be sure to join the Discord server for technical supports and how to install, and have fun. Mario Kart Rebalanced version 5 available now.